So let's get into this story about the renewal of the FISA bill, which, of course, Trump believes has been deployed against him. Let's get into that.
The House voting to reauthorize that key and controversial surveillance law in the fight against terrorism. Some lawmakers had been hesitant to renew the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, commonly known as FISA, as former President Donald Trump told them to kill it. FISA allows the government to gather information on foreign nationals who it believes could be compromising American security and be able to do it without a warrant. The holdup is that, and sometimes it collects data on Americans who interact with persons of interest.
So as long as you don't speak to anyone interesting, which, God, I'm cursed with a life of incessant conversations with interesting people. So it's a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. It shouldn't involve spying on the domestic population, and yet apparently it does. US lawmakers have passed a bill reauthorizing the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, a law which allows the government to surveil American citizens without a warrant. A small group of Republicans previously blocked the vote, but allowed it to proceed following a minor amendment to the law. The 2-year extension passed the House on Friday in a bipartisan vote of 273 to 147, and it says how it broke down, which will now proceed to the Senate, but basically both parties voted for it. Though lawmakers also debated an amendment that would have forced federal agencies to obtain warrants before spying on Americans, it failed in a tie vote. This is how the Constitution dies. This is a sad day for America, Republican Representative Thomas Massie said. I like Thomas Massie after the amendment went down in flames. He noted that House Speaker Mike Johnson provided the tie-breaking vote to kill the warrant requirement. That's surprising, isn't it, after everything he went through to get that position. Though Johnson was once a vocal critic of FISA's Section 702, which handed US intelligence agencies sweeping powers to spy on Americans in the wake of the 9/11 attacks, he quickly reversed course after his promotion to House Speaker. Do you think that in microcosm there, we've experienced everything that's wrong with politics across the world, that as you become part of the establishment, you become seduced by its dark power and unable to resist the gravity of corruption? It certainly seems so. The 702 authority has been abused to such a great extent that President Joe Biden's own Intelligence Advisory Board recommended curtailing the FBI's ability to manipulate the authority to investigate and prosecute Americans. Because it's been so roundly and soundly abused. Civil libertarians have proposed various reforms to the authority, including limits on the types of communication the FBI can search, the implementation of stringent warrant requirements to restrict FISA searches, and an end to the loophole that allows federal agencies to surveil Americans by purchasing data from private sector brokers. So even when there is a law to protect you, they find a way to circumvent it. You know that already. That every so often they go, we really should have a law against people in Congress investing in companies and trading in stocks that they have insider knowledge on. We will pass that law with a loophole for dependent children, all the like. The Biden administration officials gave a sketchy description of the procedures of the FISA law, including the functioning of the Secret Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Corps and its annual comprehensive review of the program. FISA almost never denies requests for warrantless surveillance. After nearly 40 years of its existence, the court approved 99.998% of the applications, effectively making it a rubber stamp for the intelligence agencies. So warrantless surveillance is going to continue in your country, even though the bill is called the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act and that it's adjudicated by the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. They will continue to surveil Americans using trickery and loopholes. An extraordinary little deal they've gotten together for themselves. In 2020 and early 2021, the Federal Bureau of Investigation misused the Section 702 database 278,000 times. The Federal Bureau of Investigation was misusing it. Can I ask you, as Americans, as well as citizens of the world, how do you feel about the FBI and CIA right now? How do you feel about voting for any president or any party that's not openly saying we're going to, if not review and reform and reevaluate, completely shut down these deep state agencies, whether it's the CIA or FBI, clearly work as tools of control for the establishment rather than tools of protection for the citizenry? At this point, you can no longer make that claim. And as the world slides, it seems, ever more inevitably into global conflict, if not conflict, potentially Armageddon, The fact that authority and authoritarianism is doubtlessly on the rise, the ability to censor and surveil in your country, you've seen what they're doing in Brazil, you've seen what they're doing in Canada and in Ireland and in the UK, all the while under the guise of your protection and for your safety, if not your convenience. We're approaching a point where we're going to be, I think, coaxed and coached into a state of total fear, total compliance, and total control surrounding on all sides by very profitable, terrible, forever wars. I feel like this is a time where we need to radically intervene. Those performing surveillance have routinely violated the procedures of FISA law and continue to carry out queries and electronic spying on US citizens, claiming that such crimes were an inadvertent mistake. You can't make 278,000 inadvertent mistakes, can you? Can you even 278,000 times do a typo? You can't, can you? The persistent and widespread violations by the FBI, which is part of the Department of Justice, include searches for information related to crime victims. Protesters are arrested after the 2020 police killing of George Floyd, and people suspected of breaching the US Capitol on January 6, 2021. Now, I know because I watch the chat, and I know because I care about you. And I try and listen and try and absorb the great spectrum of opinions available to us in the Rumble chat, that some of you will be deeply invested on what went down on January 6th and how subsequently it's been exploited by the judiciary and the media, and how it's been reframed and utilised to legitimise further militarisation of the police force, further draconian anti-protest laws. And many of you will feel that the George Floyd protests brought about a necessary and helpful reckoning when it came to the subject of police overreach. But the state regards you exactly the same way. You may be looking across the cultural divide in hatred of those that attended Black Lives Matter riots or demonstrations, because I really don't care. That was a slip of the tongue. Or you might look at those that participated in the January 6th demonstration, protest, riots, insurrection, choose your word. But when it comes to the almighty powerful state, they regard both sides of the divide the same way. And now, thanks to passing that bill, which both parties, curiously enough, voted through, they'll be able to spy on you in the exact same way. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.